I'm working on my Chevy Cobalt SS, and I'm going to be removing as much as I can in preparation of doing an engine swap. This is a 2.4 liter Ecotec engine. Pretty easy to do an engine swap in these. The book recommends dropping them out of the bottom, but you can certainly come through the top, especially if it's an automatic. So I'm going to remove the air cleaner, the fuse box, the TCM, the ECU, and all the wiring. And then I'm going to disconnect the starter, remove that, and then disconnect the torque converter. I've already removed the battery. So this car is in beautiful shape. I have another Ecotec 2.4. It's in really good condition. So I'm going to do that. So let me start by removing the air cleaner assembly and all the wires. If you do engine swaps or pretty much anything the exact same way and you have a system to do it every single time, it goes pretty smoothly and quickly. Loosen up the clamp for the throttle body, and then this push tab, just loosen it up. Comes right off. The mass airflow sensor. Air cleaner. So whoever had this car took extremely good care of it. All the maintenance looks like it's been done. Pretty much the only mistake they made was going to a quick lube service center. They didn't tell me which one it was, but I can probably guess. And yeah, that's what happens. To remove the rest of the airbox, it has a couple 10mm, and you're going to need a deep socket. Alright, it just comes right out. So it takes two 10mm nuts, and then this just pushes on the bottom and just goes right into the air intake. All right, every time I do an engine removal, one of the things to keep in mind is you're gonna have a million little nuts and bolts and wires and parts. So what I like doing every single time I do a engine swap or anything major is I always get a bunch of tubs and Ziploc bags to put the bolts in, a couple Sharpies to mark on each bag what it is, and then I use masking tape just to put a label on each wire or connector that I pull off. And the reason why I do that is I've done so many of these engines, I know what wires go where, but that helps you when you're putting everything back together to see if there's something that's missing. It's easier to notice a piece of masking tape dangling down than one wire that isn't disconnected, and that'll save you the hassle of trying to start it up and wondering what isn't hooked up right. Anyway, let me get back to work. So I take the Ziploc bags, write what it came on, air cleaner, what's in there, 2 nuts, and then I open it up. Toss them in here. And then I have a whole bunch of these tubs. So I'll put all the pieces for the air cleaner in here. And then put that underneath my carport or in my garage. Stack them all up. That way when it comes time to put everything back together, I'm not trying to find my engine mount bolts or, you know, just random stuff. Alright, so I'm going to remove the throttle body connector. There you go. As you can see, that way when you're putting everything back together, you might miss one little connector, but you're not going to miss that big piece of masking tape. The sun is just killing me on this top side. It's like 110 degrees out here today. So I think I'm going to go below the car, remove the starter, and try to disconnect the torque converter. And then there's one at the very top, way in the back. You need an extension to get to it if you're getting to it from the bottom. I suggest using an extension with a locking mechanism. That way you don't lose your socket. I got the last bolt loosened from the starter. Pull that thing right out. Alright, next I'm going to remove the torque converter bolts, and to do that you have to spin the engine. See what that looks like. So you're going to want to access that through the starter hole. And here it comes. There's 3. Okay, now you can see that the flywheel is moving without the torque converter. That's how you can tell you got all the bolts, but on the Ecotec engine it's 3 torque converter bolts. Next I'm going to be removing the intake manifold with the throttle body, and then disconnect the fuel injector wiring harness and the hoses. Go. And then the evap line. brake booster hose. And just a series of 10mm bolts. All right, brake booster, fuel rail. This goes on the side. Zip tie on the bottom. And then what I do is I take the manifold and the bolts. Put in the right back of the engine. Bolts in there. Trust me when I tell you, the more organized you keep everything coming apart, the easier it'll go back together. Next thing I'm going to remove is the underhood fuse box, the transmission control module, the engine control module. There's 3 connectors on the engine control module. Pull the little red tab out and then you can just push it down. It comes right off. Alright, there's one. Pull out the red tab, push back. 2. And 3. Then the transmission control module. Alright, that's for the overflow tank. Cover. This battery post takes a 10mm. And the red wire goes on the top, and this bottom one, smaller, goes on the bottom. Remove the overflow tank top hose. this zip tied, has one of those Christmas tree zip ties that goes right there. And then this just goes on the corner first. Hold the fuse box. Now there are clips that go around each side. Back corner, front corner, and then very back. And then front corner. All right, now all the wiring harnesses are held on by this 7mm first one. Second one. Okay, the ECU wiring harness for the top one connects with this little Christmas tree zip tie right on the side of the fuse box. And then the bottom wire that goes for the power has a Christmas tree fastener that goes on this side. Two 13mm bolts holding the fuse box to the frame rail. Fuse box to frame. Throw this in the trunk of the car with the ECU engine control module and transmission control module. Alright, the next thing I'm going to take off is a serpentine belt. It's going to be hard to show, it's right down there. And that's so I can take the alternator off and start removing some of the accessories. You can't really see, but here's the pulley that holds is the serpentine belt tensioner, and right on the side is a little slot for a 3/8" ratchet or wrench. And they make serpentine belt puller tools that when you're underneath the car, it just goes right in there. And then you give it some leverage and it pulls right off. Next to come off is the alternator. And this right here is a 13 millimeter. But I don't need to remove that because I already removed it from the starter. So I'll put that back on. And then remove the connector for it. There's the alternator, and I'll put the 3 bolts in a Ziploc bag with all the rest. Next, I'm going to start on the heat shield 13 millimeter deep socket. Now I'm going to start working on the bottom end. I'm going to drain the fluids and the oil, the radiator fluid, and start working on getting this thing completely ready to pull out. I like doing these engine pulls systematically and not trying to cut steps just to rip it out, because you can rip these things out really quickly. When I'm parting out a car, I could pull one of these out in just a few hours. But when you're trying to put it back together because you're doing an engine replacement, you really have to take your time to mark everything and keep everything organized. So let me get below the car and drain the coolant and the oil. Okay, first I'm going to drain the oil, and it takes a 15 millimeter. Let that drain out, and then I'm going to do the coolant next. Take care of the coolant next. Okay, on the bottom passenger side corner of the radiator is a little petcock. You unscrew that a little bit, and then the antifreeze comes out of the bottom. It is right there. Super hard to film undoing that and the coolant draining out, so I just wanted to show you where it was. Okay, while that's draining, I can remove the upper radiator hose. I should have already let enough out of it so it's not going to just leak everywhere. What's really cool about this car is almost everything I go to take off or mess with feels like it's original to the car. I'm just going to tuck this radiator hose behind something. Okay, the next thing I'm going to remove is the thermostat housing. Okay, next thing I'm going to remove is the wiring for the transmission. And to get the harness off for the transmission, you pull out this blue safety tab, and then there's a gray slotted thing in here you pull out. Pull out and it comes right off, and that's for the transmission. So what I like doing is keeping all the engine wiring with the engine, and then when I pull this engine out, I'm going to carefully dismantle all the wiring and then put it on the new engine before I put it back in the car. So all the original wiring from the old engine will go on the replacement engine. Next, I'm going to remove the exhaust manifold, but there isn't going to be no real good way to film this. They're all 13mm nuts on studs. Sometimes the nuts come off by themselves, and sometimes you get the whole stud out. There we go. Exhaust manifold's loose. So what I'm going to do is disconnect the OT sensors, pull the exhaust hangers back, and just pull it completely away from the engine. That's right. I still have a bunch more to disconnect. I'm going to put all the wiring, wrap it up nicely out of the way, and then I'll start disconnecting the front engine mount, all the bolts around the transmission, and then there's one bolt you need a long extension to get back there and get. Looks like the exhaust manifold has a total of 10 nuts, or nuts and studs. The studs will come out sometimes. And that is what the trunk looks like so far. This is going to be filled up with a lot more parts, and this bin should be pretty full. But when it goes back together, it goes back together pretty smoothly. This is going to be a pretty fun build series. So if you like this content, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.